Well, this sucks. Pokémon is a very lighthearted franchise overall. I certainly hope it would, given it's a franchise marketed to children first and foremost. That's not to say the series won't touch on darker themes and topics on occasion, but it usually doesn't linger on them for very long. And generally when they do cover those topics, it's very understated or in the background. It's rarely in your face directly. And that's probably why whenever this franchise does go dark, the fandom goes after it like a hungry dog. A prime example of this would have to be the entirety of Lavender Town. In the first game, Game Freak casually throws you into the place going, "Hey kids, Pokemon can die, and also Team Rocket killed one. Anyways, off you go, here's a Snorlax, I guess." So, how do the fans react? All things considered, rather well, I think. Usually you have to go digging through stuff like the Pokédex to find the real messed up stuff. Stuff like how Cubone wears the skull of its dead mother, a fact sort of contradicted with the breeding mechanics, but please just ignore that. Or how Phantump is supposedly the spirit of a dead child. Or how Araquanid uses its water bubble to just straight up drown smaller Pokemon. Whoever writes the Dex entries clearly has too much fun doing so. But while these Dex entries can get very brutal and veer on the side of horror, that's usually where it ends. Like, Shedinja's entry constantly talks about how peering into the crack on its back is said to steal your soul. In practice though, yeah, no, nothing's happening. And a lot of the time, the extra lore provided from the Pokédex has nothing to do with the actual Pokemon. Like, again, Phantump is supposedly the spirit of a child, but that's not really relevant to its design, or Trevenant's design. A lot of these Grim entries are for ghost types, huh? Can't imagine why. There is no Pokemon design, or area, or anything that outright unnerves me. Even Lavender Town doesn't do much, in spite of the internet's best attempts at making it seem way more messed up than it actually is. But there is one exception for me, one Pokemon specifically, that I do find myself a little unnerved by. Not in the, oh that's really scary sense, but more so in the, oh that's kind of sad. I already spoiled it right at the beginning though, so let's just get into it. So, Corsola. Corsola is a water rock type Pokemon from Generation 2. It is based off Coral and... it's based off Coral. Yeah, there's not much to this Pokemon. It's a very simple design based off a very simple concept. It popped up in the anime quite a bit, and has otherwise not been relevant for the past 15 or so years. Fast forward to 2018. The Pokemon Company is getting ready to release a new Pokemon generation, one that is sure to be received positively and not spark any controversies whatsoever. Game Freak needs to make some new regional variants for the region. One employee sits down and takes a look at Corsola, and then takes a look at Galarian Weezing. And seeing the two right next to each other, that employee gets a brilliant idea. They go up to Junichi Masuda and say, "Hey, you know what'd be really funny? So, Galarian Corsola. Just from a glance, you could tell something is up with this thing. Compared to original Corsola, the Galarian form has a permanent sad frown. Like, damn, even he knows this sucks. The pink coloring is completely gone, replaced with a pale gray. Even the shiny form lacks color, instead choosing to turn a darker shade of gray. The only coloring left is in the eyes, which is ironically more colorful than the base form, but its eyelids are half closed, further reinforcing its melancholic expression. The branches on Corsola are still there, but are now pale and translucent, very ghost-like. In fact, the Pokemon itself is ghost-type now, losing its water and rock typings. We were so close to having a ghost rock type, I can't believe they would do this. But this isn't where the story ends. You see, unlike regular Corsola, which is, you know, alive, Galarian Corsola is capable of evolution. You know, the dead one. At level 38, Galarian Corsola evolves into Cursola, and the design might be even more morbid than the first one. The original body of Corsola is gone. You can see the shattered bottom of it being dragged along with the rest of the body, which is now like the branches from before, pale and translucent. The Pokemon's head is in the direct center of its ghostly body. The stems have grown more wild, more chaotic. Corsola keeps the saddened expression, but now has a second face formed in the ectoplasm. And just like before, this Pokemon and its shiny colors are almost completely colorless. Alright, so what's the deal here? What's going on with these guys? You've probably figured it out by now, but I'll spell it out anyways. Galarian Corsola is a result of climate change. That's not just a baseless assumption, their Pokédex entry straight up confirms that. Specifically though, Corsola and Cursola draws its inspirations from bleached coral, a real-life phenomenon where the algae that gives coral its vibrant coloring dies out, leaving the reef pale and white. Technically, these bleached coral reefs are still alive, but they are highly susceptible to starvation, disease, and, well, dying, hence the reason why Corsola gains the ghost typing. And of course, what's the number one cause of bleached coral? Who would have guessed? It's rising ocean temperatures from climate change! Hell yeah, let's go, baby! I hate the ocean, fuck them sea turtles! As for Cursola, its inspirations are the same, though it may also draw some inspiration from bottom trawling, a fishing practice where large nets are dragged along the seafloor to catch fish. How is this relevant? Well, this practice has been known to damage and kill entire coral reefs, and Corsola's design, as I mentioned before, has the top completely gone, possibly from a heavy net breaking it off. These two designs might be the most blunt Pokemon has ever gotten with its environmental messaging. Pokemon has always had an environmentalist stance, the games aren't exactly subtle in that regard. A big theme in all of the games is about the bonds between people and Pokemon, people and animals, people and nature. Most people joke about how Pokemon battles are like legalized dogfighting, but in the text, it's clear that Pokemon love battling, it's in their DNA. Many Pokemon also require human intervention to evolve and reach their potential, like trait evolutions or friendship evolutions. I think this is what makes the Galarian Corsola line so fascinating to me personally, because for these two, we just chuck that idea out the window for a minute. Sure, there are some games that will muddy that coexistence theme a bit, like in the first Black and White games. We want to liberate Pokemon from their trainers. Alright. Also, we kick dogs. The fuck's the matter with you? Galarian Corsola is much more explicit though, because it's, well, dead. This thing died because of humanity. We can literally see the difference made. Its existence is practically a contradiction of that theme. Like, how can people and animals coexist when something like this could happen? And sure, their Pokédex entry does say this was actually an ancient form of Corsola, unrelated to the modern pink forms. So maybe Galarian Corsola being like this has nothing to do with human interference. For all we know, Galarian Corsolas may have popped up thousands of years ago, long before humans showed up, and the grey coloring is just because they're ghosts now, and for no other reason. Okay. I'm not stupid, Game Freak. I know what you base this on. I can see your damn works cited page. I know you're commentating on our real-world relationship with nature in the form of a Pokemon, okay? Don't try and pull a fast one on me. You could alternatively read Galarian Corsola not as a contradiction, but more so just a warning. Like, hey, if you keep messing with the planet, stuff like this will happen, and it will continue to happen. Please stop burning down the forest, you absolute idiots. Corsola being an evolution, though, I think brings the theme back. Sure, it is still very depressing. Corsola is still sad. But look at its expression a little closer. Its eyes aren't as hollow as Corsola's was. Despite the haunting face surrounding it, it does look a little more hopeful. And even in its current state, it has grown. It's sprouting from the original body, like a tree. And yeah, the branches look more intimidating, but it's still more than what the original Corsola ever had. To me at least, Corsola reads as making the most of a bad situation. Cause, like I said, these bleached coral reefs aren't actually dead. They can still grow, and maybe in time they could even thrive. But it will require effort, and even then, there's only so much one person can do. It's gonna take more than a few rare candies to get this thing's rock typing back. It's not the most uplifting message, I'm aware, but I think it is better than if this thing had stayed unevolved. One of the funnier aspects about this line is just how understated it is. Nobody cares. Nobody at any point in the game, to my knowledge, takes a look at this thing and goes, wow, that's kind of fucked up. Nope, that's just another regular old Pokemon. Nothing to see here, folks. Let's put it next to this fucking freak. It's also a version exclusive Pokemon too, so a good chunk of the player base can't even catch it without trading. A couple players may not have even seen it in-game. It's okay though, Sword players got Surfetched instead. I keep forgetting they gave Farfetch'd an evolution. Is this guy any good? And worst of all, Corsola is also kind of dog shit, competitively speaking at least. I don't judge Pokemon by their viability, just to be clear. If I did, I wouldn't be a fan of Honchkrow. But I won't lie, seeing this thing in the same tier as its pre-evolution main form is a little depressing. Disregarding that, even from a casual playthrough perspective, there's some questionable decisions made here. Why is its base ability weak armor? Its speed is 30 and its defense is 50. Why are you lowering your defense stat even further just for a +1 speed stage? At least Colossal knew to make it a +6. What am I supposed to do with a +1? Why does it lose 50 points in defense upon evolution? Why does it only have 60 HP to tank hits? Why is its signature ability a hidden one? And why does it activate Perish Song? Who uses Perish Song? Game Freak, why would you do this? Despite these big downsides, I did use one for my Shield playthrough, and for the main story, it's not half bad. That 145 special attack is frankly absurd. Though it's a bit hard to feel that when the competition on my team was Galarian Darmanitan. And also Mr. Fish, my Shield team was cracked, not gonna lie. In the right circumstances though, it can serve as a very decent wall. Strength Sap is such a funny recovery move. At first I thought it was a signature move. It's admittedly not the best recovery option though. You don't want this thing out in front of physical attackers, and that's what Strength Sap is meant to target. Again, I'm not sure if this thing was well thought out. Even though I wish it was better, honestly I don't care. I really love Corsola, if it isn't obvious by now. This is my favorite Ghost-type Pokemon. It's one of my favorites, period. I want more people to talk about my dead daughter. Look at her. She is thriving. Of all the Pokemon I want to come back, Corsola is near the top of the list. It's currently only usable in Sword and Shield, and that's fine, but my copy of Shield keeps buffering and cutting out the music. I think it's on its last legs. If and when they do bring back the Corsola line, I also hope the original form gets some love. I'm not the biggest fan of regional forms getting evolutions over the base forms. I think the OGs should at the very least get something new. They could easily translate Corsola's design to be more in line with the original form. There was this fan-made Paradox Pokemon I saw a while back for a future form of Corsola named Promise Kept, where the idea was that in the future, ecological restoration efforts saw Corsola transform into this new Paradox Pokemon. It's one of my favorite Fakemon concepts out there, and I think it could easily be translated into just a regular evolution for Corsola. Or we could keep it as a Paradox because my god, the future ones need more variety. Oh boy, I sure do love robots. I bet all the past Paradoxes look really lame. Oh god damn it. I want to end this off by mentioning two things. One, the dex entry for Marini mentions how the ones in Galar don't eat the branches off Corsola, and that makes me question if the branches off Galarian Corsola can be eaten. I mean, presumably not, right? Second, Galarian Corsola has its own Wikipedia page. Take that, Landorus.